Testing 1, 2, 3, just to make sure the sound is okay. Testing 1, 2, 3, just to make sure the sound is okay. Let's place that there. Oh. Hello, Heidi. Hello, lovely. Thank you for joining me. Let me see if I can make some space. Hello, Amanda. Hi there, Flower. Hi, Trudy. Hello, Anne. Hello, everybody. Oh, thank you, Anne. No idea what I'm making apart from I've quickly grabbed some products. So it's one of them. Sound is fine. Thank you, Anne. Thank you. What about visuals? Let's do some maintenance. Can you see everything clearly and is it close enough? Good evening, Emma. Good evening. Hello, Katinka. Hello, Trudy. Hello, Teresa. Everything looks and sounds good. Cheers, Heidi. Thank you, Flower. Hi, Sheila. Thank you. That's wonderful. So I'm just going to wait a few moments because I started about 1.5 minutes early just to make sure I could get the sound okay and everything. So hello, Danielle. Hello, Mimi and Monica. Hello, Alison. Good evening, Louise. Or it might be a different time of day for Louise. Good evening, Trace. How are you? Hello, Ruth. It's lovely to have your company. Thank you for joining me. And Alison says hello to everybody. All perfect. Thank you so much. Hey, Christina. Hello there. Hello, everyone in the chat. Thank you, Louise. Yes and yes. Can see you fine. That's brilliant. So I won't waffle too much, but I will wait a couple of moments because I am just 1.5 minutes early. Hello, Patricia. Welcome. Welcome, dear. Welcome, Rachel. Hello there. It's 1 p.m. I thought it was different. So good afternoon to you, Louise. I'm good, thanks. I'm pleased. I'm glad to hear that, Trace. Hello, Sylvia. Good evening. I have got a cup of tea somewhere, but I don't tend to put it on my desk because I knock it over. Hello, Jane. And it's gone cold now, so there's no point. Hello, Bev. Hi, Bev. How are you? Hello, Christine or Chris. Hi, Jane. Hi, Liz. So I'm going to be using my journal tonight because it's the easiest thing to go in, and if I make a total mess, I can just gesso completely over it. So that's my excuse. Hello, Lynn. Hello there. So I'm just going to wait 1 more minute and then we'll crack on with our project. Amanda says hi to Christine. Hello, Maureen. Hello there. Hello, Martine. Good evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Let's just turn that a little bit. Oh, it's lovely how you all say hello to everybody. Hi, Trina. Hello, Fiona. Phew, I'm here. Hello, Nicola. Good evening. How are you, Nicola? Hi, Ruth. Took me a bit to get in and find out where I was, so there you go. So I'm going to work in my Pink Pig journal. One, because I love the thickness of the paper or card, and I also love the fact that if I make a mistake, I can gesso over everything. So I'm going to work in my Pink Pig journal. And I've filled quite a few pages in this journal now. There's quite a few pages filled. And Heidi says, hi, Nicola. So I've filled quite a few pages in my journal and I love looking back. Hello, Marguerite. Hello there. Chat is moving fast. It is moving fast. It is moving fast, isn't it, Louise? Hi, Heather. Hello, Sally Sunshine. How are you? Hello, Carol. Good evening, Jan. So I'm just going to decide on my page, which is the hardest bit, is deciding on the page. I think I'm just going to do a completely fresh page, seeing as how I don't know what I'm doing. Good evening, Marie. Good evening. So let's pick a page. That one will do. A up, A up. A up, kid. I hope the doggies are okay with the fireworks, Nicola says. Do you know, Poppy doesn't bother with the fireworks. She just doesn't, thankfully, she isn't affected by them. Oh, hello, Cheryl. I have just stumbled on this. It's an age since I've caught alive. Well, hello, Cheryl. It's lovely to have your company. It's 8 a.m. here in New Interconnect to New Zealand. Warm welcome. Yay, Belinda. Hello, Belinda. Hello, stranger. How are you? Right, so I'm going to get going because you don't want to listen to me waffling. You want to see me do something. Oh, I love the art journal, Sally. It brings me so much joy, the art journal does. I love working in there. So I'm going to use, you chat amongst yourselves as well. Hi, Mandy Moo. So I'm going to use, let's pull the stamp out. I'm going to use TE27. So let's grab TE27. And you may ask yourself why I didn't grab it beforehand. Because I was too busy packing orders. So happy to catch you. Hello, it's wonderful to have your company, Belinda. Leo hates the fireworks, shakes and cries. Oh, Trace, that's so sad. Oh, bless. That's so sad. I'm also going to use TE25 because I might use the clocks. So I'm going to use TE25 as well. So those are the two stamps that I'm sort of aiming to work with. So that's what I'm hoping to use. And I'm literally going with the flow and just having a little bit of creative time like I normally would on YouTube, but just differently, spending the time with you live. So that means when I go live, I may not always finish a project. It may not go to plan. That's what it's all about, an off-the-cuff live. Good evening, Kay. Hello there. So it's an off-the-cuff live with no plan, no pre-done project, because unfortunately I don't get much time to prep because I'm busy most of the day. Oh, it's lovely to have your company, Jane. Hello, warm welcome. Hello, Denise, welcome. So I'm going to use the first image here, which is the insect or moth. And I'm going to base, it's exciting. Don't know about that, Amanda. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Yvonne. Just finished dinner in time. Yay. So I'm going to use the moth image here and I'm going to extend it with a few different other add-ons as well, just to extend my collage because I do love doing that. So let me grab an acrylic block or a couple of acrylic blocks. Hello, Karen. Hello there. If I miss a comment and it's a question, please feel free to sort of ask the question again, because sometimes it's easy to miss the questions when it's going up rather quickly. Heidi says, hi, Belinda. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use my I'm going to use my Versamark without pinching my finger. And I'm going to use Wow Opaque Bright White Embossing Powder. Hello, Lynn. And what have we got? Have I got anything else? No. So that's what I'm going to use at the moment. Hello, Moira. Only just remembered, but glad I'm here. Well, we haven't done anything yet, so you're okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Versamark and I'm going to build up a collage. That was my first Tracy stamp. Yay, thanks, Trina. And I'm going to build up a collage from this stamp. Now, I've opened my journal so that then I've got a hard surface to work on. I'm not working with the book closed and I've got all those lumps and bumps. So I've got a lovely sturdy page there. So let's just ink our stamp up. And as always, I'm adding plenty of my Versamark. Whether I'm using Versamark, VersaFine Clair, a Distress Oxide, I always make sure that I add plenty of ink. So I do lots of tapping because that prevents any frustrations. So always add plenty of ink. Now, I very rarely sort of go into the centre. So I'm sort of going off centre with the start of my collage. You know these stamps are going to make me go shopping. Bless Carol, bless you. I really appreciate your support, thank you. So I never start, I don't know why, sometimes I start in the centre, but most of the times I either start down here or down here. So it's very random, I don't tend to start bang in the centre. So what I'm doing, like I would do with any ink, I'm just allowing that to make that impression onto my card. What was the number of the stamp again, please? The stamp is, do you like, I've actually left them out for a change. TE27, which is insect. It's the moth. So we're just using that stamp. Hello, Trudy. Hello. Oh, now how do you pronounce that? Trijintje. Okay, so how do we pronounce that? Trudy says, hello, Tracy and everyone. Hello, Trudy. Now, you can't see much on there, which is a bit of a pain, and it makes great TV as well. Great camera work when you can't see what you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder so I can sort of see, you know, where I've made some kind of impression. Now, if your book is well used, as in you often sort of stroke, thank you, Kay, say you often stroke the pages, make sure you use your anti-static bag. If you're a stroker and you like stroking your pages, make sure you use an anti-static bag. No, these are not, this one's not a new one. I'm up to TE55, Moira, and this one is TE27. And the reason I use some of the older stamps is, older stamps can get missed if you have a new release, and sometimes they can get forgotten. So my objective is always to offer education using my stamps, but also flitting from new to previous releases, because my stamps are not discontinued. I always keep them, so they're not discontinued. So these are the two stamps that I'm using, or I'm going to use. So those are the two stamps that I'm using. Now, so that you can see, I know it's difficult, but can you see I've got my first there. I've got my first impression on there with the embossing. Now, I just add that sprinkling of the powder. Exactly, Sally. I like to use all the stamps because they're not just a one-trick pony. I like to use them over and over. Now, what I love doing is I love creating my own collage. So for me, this is like a collage in itself, but it's also a collage that we can extend. Had to come out and in again because the comments stopped. Sometimes I just tap on the screen a couple of times, Heather, and that works. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take, wonderful how old and new stamps combine so nicely. Exactly, Belinda. And to be honest, I don't really want to bring stamps out that won't combine beautifully across the whole range. I don't really want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clock. Now, because we've got these beautiful circles in this design, these clocks will work rather nicely. So I'm going to extend the collage with my clocks. I love doing this kind of thing. I love extending the collage. Nicola says, hi, Heather. So I'm just inking the stamp up again. Again, plenty of that Versamark. And what I'm going to do is I just have to be mindful of the, what's the word? I have to be mindful of where the ring binders are, where the rings are. So I'm just making sure that I move my clock just so that I can see. I may get my head in camera because of the light. We do love a circle, don't we? Oh, I love a circle as well, Sally. So I'm just adding the clock. So I'm now beginning to extend the collage. So I know I've put a clock there, so I won't add the binding. I couldn't get my words out, Amanda. So I'm just adding a clock to the top just to extend that circular design. And then I'm going to continue with the same clock from TE25. And we're just going to develop the collage. So I'm going to extend it a little bit down here. And I'm creating the collage before I actually add any colour. So I'm creating my collage first before adding any colour. And for me, I like to add the embossing once I've added a couple of pieces of the collage to the background, just because I can see how it's developing and I can see my composition. So composition is one of the things that I love doing. I love creating a composition. And what will I have in my online shop? What do I have in my online shop? Oh yes, I've got the moth in my online shop. They've literally just come back in stock this week because they went out, well, there was one left. So we just got this. Can you see now how I'm extending the composition? I'm hoping you can see that as I move that around. Can you see that? Yes, you can see that. I can see that clearly. So you can see how I'm extending that composition. Now these Facebook Lives, because I have to spy my chance when I'm going live, I won't be rushing. I'll just be taking my time. So if you need to disappear, feel free to disappear at any time. So we've started that composition now. Now I can continue bringing this moth down here. Thank you, Belinda. Thank you very much. So I'm going to take the moth again. And what I can do is I can use my acetate just to determine where I want to add another of those moths. So even though it's an A7 stamp, you can make it into an A5 project, an A4 project. Just because you've got a small stamp doesn't have to mean that it can only be used for small projects, because there are ways that you can just extend that design beautifully, particularly if you've designed it so it can be extended. Oh, thank you, Trudy. So let's just add this here. And again, you can see that I always allow that ink. Is Ian watching football? Oh, yes, Kay. He's been at the NEC all day today, and he's at the NEC. When is it the NEC? He's at the NEC tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. So tomorrow, me and Poppy are having a TV day. Apart from packing orders, we're having a TV day. Bless Poppy. Looks like I'm shopping again. Bless Moira. So I'm extending this now. So don't think of a small stamp of, oh, it's only an A7 stamp. There's lots you can do with it if you allow that stamp to be extendable. And that's what I'm showing here, how we can extend that collage. And guess what? If you make a mistake with this kind of design, it doesn't matter. The embossing powder, hello Catherine, hello lovely, is Wow Opaque Bright White. My journal is the Pink Pig ones I sell online, and I'll measure it for you because I can't remember. It's something like 5 and a bit by 8 and a bit ish. I'll have to measure it for you. Let me just, and I'm going to lift this up. Now, if you make a mistake with this kind of composition, it's not going to matter. It really isn't going to matter. Now let's lift this up so you can continue to see the composition being built. Let's just, there you go. Can you see that composition, how I'm extending the composition? Just so that it isn't just one. Yes, I love this one as well, Yvonne. Opaque Bright White. So let me grab a tape measure so that I answer Cheryl's question. I'm sure it was Cheryl. Yes, it was. Good evening, Sue. So it is 5.5 inches. Sorry, I work in inches. I'm old fashioned. 5.5 by just below 8.25. So a little bit bigger than 5 by 8. Thank you, Catherine. Basic card, and I'm going with that. Exactly, Catherine. You can cut a piece of card, watercolour card, pink frog card. You can cut it 5 by 8, and you can create exactly the same composition, and you can create a card. Now, I've missed a little bit there. It doesn't matter, because we're going to extend that composition, and when we've finished, it won't matter one bit. So I'm then going to take the clock again, but this time let's take a different clock. So let's take a different clock. Let's take this one with the Roman numerals on there. So let's take that one, and we'll extend this. Even better late than never. Hello, Kate. All we've done, Kate, is stamp with Versamark, and we're extending a composition with a collage style. So we've done nothing sort of too taxing. So I'm just continuing with my composition. I'm playing along with TE45. That's wonderful because you can extend TE45 as well. So I'm going to add a circle here. So I'm just looking at my composition now. And I don't want to sort of plonk another clock here because that's sort of too regimented. I quite like the balance there. So whilst, good evening, Maxine, whilst I'm looking at the balance, I'm just going to add, hello, Sandra. I'm going to add the embossing powder to this clock. There we go. Now, you have lots of stamps that you've got at home that you can play with, adding to your collage. So look at your stamps and see how you can add to your collages. There's lots of ways. So also, on TE25, we've got the light bulbs, which for me work quite apt with a moth because a moth's attracted to light. So in other words, it makes some kind of sense, a roundabout. So I'm going to take the light bulb. So let's take that light bulb. And I'm just going to think about my composition now. I don't necessarily want to fill every bit of space. I want some of that open space because open space, it draws the eye in more and it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye rather than cluttering the whole page. So I'm going to take the small light bulb that's actually got embossing powder on it now because I've got embossing powder everywhere like I normally do, but that's standard practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the collage here and add a light bulb down here. And again, if you're not sure where to extend your collage, take your acetate. So I will add one there. I'm going to add one here. And I'm sort of keeping the collage here so that I've got some open space around there. And we'll probably finish the collage by adding these light bulbs. So I'm just continuing to add the light bulbs. And now the collages are becoming connected so that it works together. Yes, I love the organic shape as well, Belinda. I don't like it to be too regimented. And what I mean by that is, oh, I've stamped 2 there, so I need 2 there. I've stamped 1 there, so I need 1 there. I tend to go for a more organic look. But it still has to have balance. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add one just coming from the wing here. So I don't want it just floating in midair. So what we'll do now is we'll just sprinkle our embossing powder and have a look at what we've got. And this paper is covered in embossing powder, standard. So I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder, and I tend to sprinkle and then heat all in one go when I can. There are always exceptions to the rule, but when I can heat emboss all in one go, that's what I like to try and do, is heat emboss all in one go. Now don't worry if you miss little bits, it really doesn't matter because you're going to colour and we're going to add a little bit of dimension. So this is the collage that I've got at the moment. Let's tilt that a little bit so you can see that. just so you can see. And where we have a gap here, I can connect that, no problem. But can you see how we've got all that on there? So we've got beautiful connection there. Now, we may have missed a couple of areas. So on here, I've missed a tiny bit. I've missed a tiny bit there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the Magnolia stamp. Thank you, Amanda. I'm going to grab the Magnolia stamp. Thanks, Belinda. Thanks, Christine. Wait till we add some colour. I've now got hiccups because I've eaten my tea. Now, say I've missed a little bit. Now, collages are forgiving. Thank you, Heather. So collages are very forgiving. Only me and you know this. Only me and you know that I've missed a bit. Nobody else does. Thanks, Carol. So I'm going to add a little bit of text in there. And let's add a little bit more ink because I can't remember how much I've done it. Let's add a little bit of text there. And now let's add a little bit of text to my collage, just so it looks like it's purposeful rather than slopped on there. Thank you, Sandra. So I'm adding little bits of text so that if you've made a bit of a cock up, it doesn't matter, you can add some text. So let's just, and then what we'll do is we'll heat this afterwards now, and then we'll add some colour. So let's reach for our embossing powder again, and let's just sprinkle a little bit of embossing powder where we missed in those areas. And I can't remember where I've sprinkled the text now because I waffle too much. Let's tip that up. And what I'll do is I'll show you the final composition before we heat it, just so you can see what we've got. And also to pause a little bit. I hope you're okay, Katinka. And just to pause a little bit so that Catherine and anybody joining in just can catch up. I'd also like to send get well wishes to Diane as well, who's not been very well. So can you see, let me lift this up again. So I've added little bits of text there. I've added a little bit of text there and there, just to sort of connect the compositions as if it's purposeful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to heat that embossing powder. Now, if like me, you've got the hairdryer type ones, love how you're building the composition. Thank you, Marie. I love doing compositions like this. And I also love showing how you can take an A7 stamp and build on from that. So I'm going to heat my heat tool up because there's no point going to this and just wafting cold air. So I'm just heating that up. Thank you, Sylvia. So I'm just heating that up and giving it a little bit of time. Thank you, Anne. I hope Andrew's okay, Anne. Say hi to him from me. So I'm just heating the heat tool up, just so that we're not sitting there and it's not really doing anything. It takes a little bit of time when you're heat embossing an area as much as I'm doing here. And obviously, all good, Katinka. I'm glad everything's okay. So I'm just heating this up, and if I lift the page a little bit, we might heat it. There we go. It might go a little bit quicker because then I'm not trying to heat the non-stick craft sheet as well. And I'm having to turn the page a little bit because in the light, sometimes I can't see. Thank you, Trina. So let's just, and as you heat your embossing, don't forget to move your heat tool so that you don't overheat the embossed area. But guess what? When you're doing a collage like this, it doesn't matter so much about the mistakes because they're easy to cover up. He's great, thanks. I'm pleased about that, Anne. So I'm just heating the embossing. Not very interesting to watch because I have to keep my eye on what I'm heating to make sure that I don't overheat everything. So I'm just lifting the page up so that I'm not heating my non-stick craft sheet up as well. Just makes it turn a little bit quicker. Thank you, Kate. And everything always comes to life when we add some colour. There we go. Try not to burn your fingers, which is what I do. I tend to look at a comment and then I don't watch where the heat tool is and then I burn my fingers. So don't do as I do. There we go. So we should have that all done. So I'm going to lift this up so that you can see properly what we're working with. Can you see the glossiness of the collage? It's actually harder to see now that we haven't got the powder, but it will come to life once we add our colour. And that's what I love about my journals. I class my journals as experimentations, and I don't put any pressure on myself if they go wrong. So that's what I like about it. So I'm going to take my 5x7 gel press. Too late, happens to me all the time. So I'm going to take my little 5x7 gel press to add my colour. You can add your colour in any way you wish. Thank you, Belinda. So I'm going to take my smaller oxides because, as you know, I'm rather smitten with them. And I've got a colour scheme I used recently that I've actually I put some of my colour schemes in one of my Thrinchy books so that I've got the colour scheme listed. Oh, Patricia's saying hello. I wonder what you were saying then, Patricia. So I'm going to take Crackling Campfire because it's a lovely rich colour. So let's take lots of Crackling Campfire. Nice rich colour. I'm then going to take Rusty Hinge. So let's take lots of Rusty Hinge. So real nice, rich, hot colours. I'm then going to take, I should have added the mustard seed before, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to add more of the mustard seed afterwards. So that doesn't really matter. I'm then going to take some Lumberjack Plaid. So let's take some of the Lumberjack Plaid. And it doesn't matter that I've got those squares on there at all. So let's move this. And what I'm going to do is move this out of the way. Where's my water? There we go. And I'm going to spritz my gel press with water. And I'm spritzing it with lots of water. Mainly because then, if I've got any lines, it will get rid of those lines. So I don't have to worry too much about any lines being on there. And what we want to do is grab a piece of kitchen roll so that we've got that ready. And you're going to move the colour round. So don't worry if it goes on the outside because we're going to move that colour around. Belinda says, hi, Patricia. And can you see, what I love is I'm not rushing. I feel like I've got time. So I'm just grabbing a spare piece of Pink Frog Super Smooth card because if we've got any extra colour, we can add that to some of the card as well. So I've got my gel press and I'm going to let everything drip on there that needs to drip. And then I'm just going to place this on there. And we're just going to allow that just to spread, allow it to bleed out from the gel press. Allow that to bleed out. And then you're just going to lift that. It's just a facility to allow us to move ink. And what you're going to do then is, let's just mop that bit up. You're going to have a spare piece of card and you're just going to leave that on there. So just leave that on there and that will create another background for us. So we've now got the basis for our design. So this is just the basis and we're going to leave this to do its thing, but it isn't soft enough for me. I want it to feather out. So let's spritz with water. Now what I'm trying to show you is if you wanted it left like that, you could. But what I want to do is I want it to feather out. Now this is going to feather out, no problem. But I want this to feather out a little bit. There we go. So now, as you know, I spread the water everywhere when I spritz it. Now, what you have to be careful of is not drying this too soon. You don't want to dry it too soon. Don't the colours pop with that white. They just pop beautifully. But what I want to do is I want to add a little bit more red. So we're going to leave this here. Can you see? We're leaving this here to do its thing. You can press it if you wish, look, because it moves. So you can press that, no problem at all. Let's just dry the back because the back's got some ink on. There we go. So you can just leave that on there. And now we're going to add a little bit more colour. And obviously we want to add a few more layered elements. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab an acrylic block. And now I'm going to pinpoint some colours just to add a little bit more richness. And I'm going to take a little bit of water and I'm going to use a round brush because that will add lots of water because it's round, it's got lots of bristles, so it'll hold on to the moisture. Now this is a round brush, number 8. I think it's Nick Pro. It's a number 8 round brush, but it doesn't matter. As long as you've got a round brush that holds lots of moisture, it means now I can physically come in and I can pinpoint some of the colour. Now, as you can see, you need to add a lot of colour. So for me, what I do is I play a little bit while it's all still wet, and then I will dry it so that I can layer the colour. And what will happen is this colour is still moving because we've got water on there. So I'm adding a little bit more of this red whilst it's still very wet and whilst it's still fluid. You could use your watercolours. They would be super vibrant and would look lovely as well. Now, whilst I am allowing the moisture to stay on there, what that will do is continue oxidising. So that will also add to all the background. But you can see I'm just adding dots of the colour now. And if I add dots of the colour, it'll just add some of those rich reds. Now, when you're at home and you're doing it yourself and you've got lots of time, sometimes it's really good to let this dry naturally. It really works really well if you can let it dry naturally. I'm not going to. So whilst you're here, lift this up now because you've got another background. And any excess that we've got, we're just going to add to that extra background. So just add that. You can even spritz this background with a little bit of water if you wish. So you're creating another background while you're at it that you can use for a card. Now, if you don't want to spend ages drying this, you can mop that up. Now, if you mop it up, you're just going to dilute that colour. So I don't want to necessarily dilute it. I also don't want to move it, so I'm going to hold the heat tool quite high up. The second prints are always lovely. I love them, Belinda. Sometimes I prefer the second prints to the first. Now, can you see that I'm holding the heat tool quite high up? There are two reasons. One, I've got that embossing on there, so I don't want to affect the embossing. And two, I don't want to move too much of the colour. I'm quite liking how it's looking already. So I'm trying not to move the colour. Now, I'm not creating this for another card. I'm creating this for my cutout pieces. So I'm not creating this for a card. I'm creating this piece for my cutout pieces. So I'm holding this quite high up just so that I don't affect the embossing. And you can see how fluid that ink is at the top because it's moving. The light is actually moving within the puddles of ink. And I'm still not going to do anything with that. So what I'm going to do now is my colour that's not on there much at all is the colour that I said I would add afterwards, which is the mustard seed. Now we know that if I touch the mustard seed here with yellow, we know that we're just going to get more hints of orange. So I want to make sure that I physically add yellow. Where's my acrylic block? Do you like how I lose the acrylic block within 3 seconds? And the reason I'm working on an acrylic block is any excess ink I can add to here for my 3D elements. So I'm just going to go in and pick up the yellow. Now you can see that my brush has still got red on there. So can you see what happens? It goes to orange. We don't want that because we've got enough of those orange tones. So your lesson here is make sure that you clean your brush, especially if you don't want it all to be completely orange. And that's what happens, obviously, one, if your brush isn't clean. Oh, bless B. Honestly, B, just take in little bits of information a bit at a time. Don't get swamped with too much information. Just take a snippet, try out that snippet of an idea, and once you've perfected that, you can then bring in other little ideas. Just don't get swamped with too many things. So I'm going to take the yellow again, and what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to use a clean brush, just so that I've got the yellow on there. Some more water. Let's grab some more water. It's a good job I filled those up. So I'm going to take some more water. And you can see that my page is taking the colour beautifully. And it's taking the colour really nicely. There's not much water in that brush. So let's pick that better. So this is another round brush. This is bigger. This is number 14. So it's just a bigger round brush. It doesn't matter. And I'm just adding, look now, that's going to bleed into it. So you're not going to get the yellow. So I want to make sure that I get some of those yellows. So I want to bring in the yellows. Thank you, Denise. And what you have to remember with colour is it takes layers. Now you can see this is very wet and I've let it do its thing for a while. So this is a pink pig journal, not pink frog. So this is a pink pig journal. So now I've got that depth still. I've not really bleached it out much because I've allowed it to sit there. So it's a pink pig journal. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to add more yellow. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take the acrylic block and I'm going to flood with yellow. I love how the embossing resists the ink, but I want the yellow to be more prominent. And you're going to get this, you're going to get that the colours that are wet will mix with that. Let's add this to the other one. They will mix with the colour and you'll get oranges. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that I add some of the yellow and it's more prominent. And can you see, even if you get a little bit of ink, can you see here on the page here, it doesn't matter because this page here, I will make sure coordinates with this page. So it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of colour on there. If you don't want to get any colour on there, just put a piece of copy paper on and you're absolutely fine. So now I'm going to dry this a little bit more. And the reason I'm moving the heat tool again and keeping it a little bit higher is so that we don't affect that embossing. So don't affect your embossing. So I'm just moving the heat tool so that I don't hold the embossing. I don't hold the heat on any of the embossing. And what I'm going to show you is where I've added the colour separately, and you will be able to see it. There we go. Now I'm just going to dab it so I can hold the page up and you'll see what I mean. So where I've dabbed the colour extra, you can see it's darker here. It's darker here with some of the red. So I can continue to add some red here if I wish. But the way I can lay the pigment down more is by taking the Distress pencils. So let's move this out of the way. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more depth now. So I'm going to take set 4 and 6. So this one's got festive berries in. What's set 6 got in? I'm sure there's another one in here. There you go, Lumberjack Plaid. So let's take Lumberjack Plaid. That's it. So we can now add a few more colours. What about, where is it? There it is, Dusty Concord. So now I'm going to pinpoint and add some more colours. It takes me longer to get the pencils out than it does actually to create the artwork. So let's move these out of the way so you can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm going to grab a finer brush. So I've got my round brush number 1. Just use the paint brushes you've got, but just be aware that a round brush holds more moisture. So I'm going to take the moisture, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Lumberjack Plaid. So if I take the Lumberjack Plaid, I love Lumberjack Plaid as well, Maureen. Now I can add, especially if you add a bit more water, Tracy, I can now add some of this pigment over the top. So let's just, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's dip this into the water because I want it that's better. So I want the pigment a little bit darker. So I'm taking the pencil now and I'm dipping it in the water. And what that means is I can come and add a lot more richness of pigment. So I can just make sure. And the good thing about this is you can take a little bit of water and you can just soften it. So you don't have to worry about it being too harsh. So if you want an easy way to colour, emboss a background, then take your pencils and just scribble them over the top with a wet tip. Because these are woodless, you're not going to affect the pencil because they are woodless. So can you see that pigment really sort of, let's move this up a bit more. That's it. It's just giving me a little bit more depth. Oh yes. I could do this all night, but it's giving me more depth and I don't have to worry about, I'm going to cover some of these moths up anyway, but I don't have to worry about the blend because I can blend that out. Hello Jules, hello there. I don't have to worry about the blend because I've only got to touch it with a bit of water and it's going to do the trick. So I'm coming in with a little bit of that Lumberjack Plaid, and can you see the difference with that rich pencil, with the distress pencils, how it really gives a little bit more oomph. Now I want to add a little bit more darkness, a little bit more shading, and the way I can do that is take a purple. So I'm taking Dusty Concord. So I'm going to dip that into the water. It takes a bit just to get that pigment going, and I'm going to add a little bit of purple because purple will naturally give me that little bit of shading just around my circles. So the purple gives me some natural shading. Oh, thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Flower. So I'm just going around. Now, once you establish what your products can do, it becomes quite freeing because sometimes it's not always about the finished result. It's actually practicing with those products and seeing what they can actually do. Ask yourself lots of times, what if? Hi Heidi, I hope you're well, Jules says. So I'm just dipping the Dusty Concord in there, just to give me a little bit more shading. And what a difference it makes by dipping those pencils into that water. I love colouring this way, mainly because it's forgiving. Anybody on the planet can do it and we all look good. So I'm just adding a little bit of that Dusty Concord. So let's add a little bit of that Dusty Concord here. We've missed one, so let's add a little bit of Dusty Concord here. And you'll see it's starting to come to life a little bit more. But it's like anything with projects. They come to life, but it takes time. It takes time just to build the layers. So can you see we've now got a little bit more depth? Well, I think we've got a lot more depth. What I'm going to do then, what ifs, my favourite way to craft. Exactly, Amanda. Ask yourself what ifs lots of times and then try it and see what happens. Festive Berries is going to be really vibrant. So I'm going to add a little bit of Festive Berries just to give me that pop of vibrancy. Look how vibrant that is. Absolutely wonderful. But what I'm not doing, I'm not covering the whole circle. So I'm not covering that whole circle. I'm leaving some of the background visible. So I'm dipping it straight into water, but leaving some of that background visible. But it's so forgiving. You know, I'm not having to do anything that's complicated. I'm literally scribbling with the wet pen. Let's add a little bit in here as well. And I'm quite happy with them colours, I think. Yes. So what you can do then, I love how the crayons make it look. Do I want, yes, let's use the Lumberjack Plaid again. And then let's just come around the light bulb and just add some of that pigment just around here. Now, don't forget, if you've got harsh lines, it's very forgiving. You can just come in with a little bit of water, or you can even spray it. So you can take a brush, pick up your diluted colour of whatever colour, and you can just soften the edges. You don't have to touch it. It's just fantastic. And it gives it, look how much more depth that's got. Oh, just, that's it. I could do this all night now. So let's take a little bit more water. You've lost me now. You've lost me. So I'm going to put a little bit more Lumberjack Plaid in here. You've completely lost me now because I'm enjoying myself too much. So I'm just laying down the colours. Let's add a little bit in here. And you can see there's some holes in the embossing. Just rub it over and then you can wipe off whatever doesn't touch in there. Breathing, breathing. So just continue with your colours until you are 100% happy. But what you need to make sure is that you've got a journal that will take that moisture. It needs to take the moisture and the pigment. It needs to be able to take that. Breathtaking. Oh, bless you, Amanda, bless you. But doesn't the colour just pop with those pencils on there? And again, you can add more dimension. You don't have to add anything like your Inktense. You can come round with a little bit of purple, and purple will give you some shadow. So it'll give you a little bit of shadow just around your circles as well, just to give it a little bit more. Oh, bless. Thanks, B. So we're just adding a little bit of shading here. But I love the fact that I'm not going to ruin my pencil because they're designed to be used with moisture. So I'm not doing anything that's going to harm my pencil. So I'm adding a shadow, a very subtle shadow, just around the pieces here. Just to give that a little bit of a shadow. It's amazing what a little bit of pigment can do. That's what I love. And you know the best thing? You can actually dry this and go over it again. And if you dry it and go over it again, it'll pop even more. And that's the best bit. It's wonderful. So you can also take your crayons, pencils, watercolours, whatever you want to call them. You can take water, and you can flood them with water, and you can just flick the pigment onto the page. So just flick the pigment onto the page and you've got splatters that are the same colour as well. Yeah, these are not sort of a waxy, they feel it to the touch. They feel no different than sort of a waxy crayon, but when you lay them down, they're creamy, and because they react with water, it's just wonderful. And I can't recommend them enough when you dip them in water. Oh, I love it when you dip them in water, because you get this effect. So you can splatter with them as well, so that you've got coordinating splatters. I just want to add a little bit of dimension. So let's give this a dry. Now don't heat that too much. Thank you, Jane. So don't heat that too much, because you don't want to affect that wonderful embossing. But the difference, adding that crayon, it's just wonderful. That watercolour crayon is wonderful. Thank you, Sally. So where's my bit of card? We've got our bit of card here. So let's just add this to here. So you could have this as a card blank. I'm not. Kate, if you do this technique, it's wonderful. You'll get so much vibrancy. No problem, Patricia. Have a lovely evening, Flower. So what I'm going to do now, I've been on nearly an hour. Thank you, Marie. I'm going to stamp the moth on here, and we're just going to add a couple of finishing touches, because we want to finish it off nicely, because there's still more we can do. So I'm then going to take the moth once again. So let's take that moth. Now let's stamp. You see, if I stamp him in black, for me, it's going to be too much, because I like this white sort of open look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss on top of this. So because I'm embossing on the top of this, Belinda says night, Patricia. Because I'm embossing on the top of this wet ink in white, I'm going to just give that a thorough dry, and then I'm going to use my anti-static bag. So let's use our anti-static bag. Now, it doesn't matter how much I use this anti-static bag if the card is still soaking wet. The embossing will still stick everywhere if it's still soaking wet. Now, I'm going to take the moth. Let's just ink the whole thing, and I'll cut the moth out. So let's take this. And again, lots of tapping. Can you just tell me where that hour has gone? I don't know where it disappears to, because the problem with me is I do something that I'm enjoying, like this colouring here, and I get a little bit carried away, and then I can't stop. So, oh, I love them, Trina. I love them. I'm going to get some more of the colours in as well, but I love them. So hopefully we've got a good image there. Not that we can see much at the moment. So let's sprinkle some embossing powder. So we've got the embossing powder on there. Have I got a full wing? Do you know, I don't know whether I've got a full wing or not. Oh yes, we can make do with that. So we'll just heat emboss this, put this back. So this time I've heat embossed on the top of the colour. That doesn't mean I can't put colour on the top. No problem, Christine, no problem at all. You're very welcome. Good night, Flower. So I'm just going to heat this. Thank you, Ruth. And I think it was Ruth, was it Ruth that asked me to use the clocks? So this is one of the reasons I use the clocks as well, because I think it was Ruth that asked me to use the cloths. Oh yes, I still use my Ecolines, Louise. I still use my Ecolines. Don't ask me why I'm swinging the heat tool like this. There is no reason. It's just one of those bad habits. Yes, the video will be available on YouTube. I actually transfer them straight to YouTube, Jane, so that you can watch them at your own pace and then do it whether you want to do the project now or in 6 months' time, or you want to adapt. So we haven't got many more steps now, but I just want to finish this off. And I've not sort of embossed the moth perfectly, but there you go, it doesn't matter. So I just want to cut out the moth. And it's not perfectly embossed, but it doesn't matter. We get the idea. So I'm just cutting the moth out, and I'm going to give the moth a little bit more life. So yes, I will add it to YouTube so that you can do and create at your own pace. So let's cut this out. Now what you could also do, you could also cut out some more of the circles as well. But as I've said to you before, I don't want to sort of overpack the page. So what I'm going to do now is bring in the water, because this is very pale, it's got no dimension. So let's bring in a little bit more water. Let's bring in, look how sort of flat that is, and it's not even embossed properly. But let's bring a little bit of life. Let's bring it to life a little bit. Just so it's got a little bit more oomph about it. Let's give it a little bit more oomph. Oh yes, what a difference. So I've not even embossed this properly, and it doesn't matter. So I'm going to then bring in a little bit of the festive berries, dip that in the water. Oh, what a wonderful colour. Oh, it does make me happy when something's simple to create and it just works. I knew it wouldn't take long before you were fussy cutting. Can't help myself, Kay. I so enjoy how you help us think of so many ways to use stamp sets like this. For me, Belinda, no problem, Jane. For me, Belinda, it is so important that my stamp sets are not sitting there gathering dust. That upsets me more than anything. I would rather you not buy than them just gather dust. Because for me, this is what education's all about. It's about us enjoying our hobby. You don't have to have a reason to create. It's just about enjoying it. I mean, I've had a whale of a time doing this. And the fact that the crayons have just brought everything to life, I just love it. I absolutely love it. It's just wonderful. So I'm just going to, let's spritz it a little bit just so everything flows, and then let's give that a dry. It's going to move, so let's hold it down. Will this be your normal schedule for a Facebook Live? That's what I'm thinking, Louise. I'm thinking about having a Thursday for a live, because I don't want to conflict with Amanda. Amanda normally does a Facebook Live on a Friday, and she also does a Facebook Live on a Wednesday for me, and she does a Facebook Live on a Friday with lots of different products as well. But she sometimes, a lot of the time, does a Facebook Live for me on a Wednesday, and I don't want to conflict with that. Yes, there's dust everywhere. I've got dust everywhere. Terrible. So I've just sort of diluted it a bit, and then I'm just going to come in and just add a little bit more definition. And you can see it's still wet, so let's just give this a dry. Sometimes I can't do a Facebook Live because something happens with business, so I'll always give notice if I'm doing a Facebook Live, definitely. Now, for me, I need a little bit of orange in this one. So I'm going to take carved pumpkin. Oh, bless you, Kay. Kay does Facebook Lives as well in All Brands Facebook group as well. So I'm just going to add a little bit more orange to this, just to bring in a little bit more vibrancy with the orange. And all I'm doing is scribbling that orange. Now be mindful, if you've got some purple tones on there, you don't really want to be mixing them with your purple because you don't want to end up with brown. Okay, so let's leave that on one side. Let's just dab this up. And then we're now nearly finishing. We're just going to grab the inset wording. So let's take that. And I'm going to grab the little inset word here. You're very welcome, Louise. So I'm going to take the little inset word as well. And then I will actually stamp that in black because it's only the word. It's not an image that's going to overpower anything. No problem. You enjoy your walk with Boo. Oh, bless. You're very welcome, Louise. You're very welcome. So I'm just going to ink that up with the black. And we'll just use a bit of this card. And just use the insect. Like so. So we've nearly finished. Have I got my large scissors? I have to try and pick my large scissors up now without knocking everything down. Yes, I do sell the crayons, Sue. I've got set 4 and set 6 on the web page. They might be under the distress range. It's under there. So let's just add these. I just want to say that I think everything you do is fantastic. Oh, bless you, Sylvia. That's so kind. That really is kind. Louise says bye to everybody. Thank you, Louise. So, because I've got a camera in front of me, I can see. You can have a look then. So, you can see with this now, I don't think it needs it because that gets lost. It just doesn't do anything. It gets lost. Now, if I added... Sorry, because I have to do it properly. Let's just stamp the image in black. So do you remember when I said I wasn't going to add black? This just gets lost. So that's no good to me. So let's just take this moth again. So let's just, I like to show you, you know, if it doesn't work, I say it doesn't work. So I'm going to take some black ink. We may decide we're adding nothing to it apart from the insect word, but always ask yourself, what if? And this is why you ask yourself, what if? So let's take that black ink. And now we're just going to stamp in the black. And I'm giving that plenty of time to make that impression because it's got a lot of detail on there. It's the moth that I am wanting to cut out. I'm doing, do you know, I think I've got embossing powder on here. Bear with me. I'm doing well. Let me clean the embossing powder off my stamp, which is just lovely. There it is. I've got a little bit of embossing powder on my stamp. I just want to say, oh, bless you, Ruth. Bless you. So, let's try again. It does help if you don't have embossing powder everywhere. Yes, you could stamp one over one you've already coloured. But, so, you could obviously have your wings on here if you wanted to and have it. But I just quite like that starkness of that white that really pops here on that page. So I don't want to really add something over the top. It works, and you've got dimension, so you can add that over the top. I may not add anything, but what I'm trying to show you is what you ask yourself. So when you're creating, say to yourself, what if? So you can add that over the top quite easily, no problem at all. You could even add some light bulbs. So what I'm trying to show you is how you can develop it in different ways. And this is why I say that I won't rush my Facebook Lives. I always like to take time, so I won't rush the lives, because that's when we don't go through everything. So let's cut this out. Let's just give that a waft dry before I cut it out. So yes, you could quite easily put that over the top and it still works. It works beautifully when I look in the camera. It looks really nicely. But what I want to show you is also when you have a black, which is like a contrast. So I just want to show you the different ways you can just change your page up a little bit. Because yes, it's about having creative time together, but it's also showing what if or how could we change it. So it's important to give as many details as possible. I always allow the ink to rest a little bit because you get less frustrations. Obviously, if you're using a stamping platform, it's not an issue because you can just keep pressing it. But if you're using an acrylic block, and not everybody has every tool going, and if you've got your acrylic blocks, most frustrations come from if you've got stray embossing powder like me, or you're in too much of a rush and you lift your ink pad far too quickly. And that's where our frustrations come from. And we should say how we make mistakes, how we all make mistakes, because that's how we learn. And that's how we perfect things. You're very welcome, Kate. You're very welcome. And don't forget, I don't always get it right either. Now, a black, can you see how it gives, I can't even pick it up. The black will give you a contrast. So let's just, well, I don't use Brushos, Kay, but I love them. But I'm actually bringing in the, oh, the name's gone out of my head now. I'm bringing in Lindy's Stamp Gang powders because I like the colours. So they are on the way now. So they're on the way, Lindy's Stamp Gang. They're on the way. So what you need to think to yourself is, do I want to add some contrast? Do I want to add it on top? Which actually, when I look at it, looks really nice. So can you see the black gives it a contrast? Look. Oh, I can't pick the thing up. Not infusions, no. I'm going to be using Lindy's Stamp Gang. There's no point me doing infusions because the lovely Paper Artsy do that. Can you see the black? So what you need to decide is, are you adding contrast? That really gives it some oomph with the contrast, with the black. Or are you just adding one over the top? You've got so many options. And then you can add, so I'm bringing Lindy's Stamp Gang powders in. They will be here soon. And then you can just add a black insect. Let me look at that. So it's asking yourself what you like. So you can still bring in that, but you can bring a little bit of black just with the insect word. Do you like the black? So everybody seems to like the black. So let's bring in the black. Doesn't it look stunning? Because it's a contrast. So let's add that black. But always ask yourself, what if? And guess what? It doesn't matter if when you come to look at it another time and you think, why did I do that? Just put another one over the top. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to give it so that it's got a little bit of life. So I'm not going to adhere the whole wings so that when I come to the page, I can lift the wings if I want. So let's just, I'm going to add the black, but I'm going to leave the wings slightly loose, just so that when I come to the page, it's got a little bit of movement. I like both, Kate. I like both. So then I'm going to add my insect word. So let's take the insect word. There we go. So let's just add that lovely insect word. And can you see, I've not sort of stamped here and there and there. I've still left some space. So there's some white space. So the black moth just gives it that pop of colour. So we're just going to add a little bit of Inktense under here because my Inktense pencil feels a little bit left out. So we're just going to add a little bit of the Inktense just down here. And I'm going to faff. That's it. I'm faffing with my word. So my Inktense pencil felt left out. It lives in my journal bee because I'll show you my journal bee. Hang on. So my journal is my source of inspiration for me. So I look back on it and then I might think of another idea to try and inspire you. But it's my source of inspiration. So we've got a little bit of black there. You can add a little bit of shading just underneath your moth as well. And then we'll add some of our white splatters. Oh, thank you, Belinda. It's so lovely to have your company, Belinda. Just like old times. Everybody needs a Belinda on the live. Now, if I splatter, I need a new pencil. I can't give this one up. This one's been with me since COVID. It's been with me since COVID, that has. So I'm going to add splatters. Now, if I add splatters, it's going to pick up the colour. So I'll just dry it quite quickly and then you can see the page finished. So let's add some lovely splatters. And then what I'm going to do, just give the splatters a little bit of a dry. Oh, thank you, Anne. And I didn't make 1 hour, I made it 1 hour, 15 minutes. Honestly, Sally, it's been with me since COVID. And there you've got your page finished. Thank you, Emmy. Like old times. Now, was it that's just asked me? Where have you gone? Where have you gone? B. It was B, wasn't it? B. You can see that my journal, if I just open it, my previous, you see, this is for a retreat. I'll look at my pages. There's texture on that page. But I've got my journal as a reminder of everything I've done. And I just look back on it. And it just brings me so much happiness just to look back on the pages and be inspired again. This is one of my other favourites. But I absolutely love looking back on the pages. But this is our live tonight. So I hope you've enjoyed that. You're not going to be able to hold it for much longer. But if I wanted to, I could go in and even add more depth with those pencils. I just love them. Oh, thank you, B. So thank you, everyone, for your company. I was pleased with the clematis one, Sally. I was really pleased with the clematis one. You're very welcome, Maureen. Thank you. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for your company. It's lovely to have your company. And I think Amanda's got a live on Friday. Might be on a YouTube channel, I'm not sure. Thank you, Marie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Heidi. Thanks, Flower. And thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Mimi. So thank you all, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. Oh, bless you, Amanda. Thank you, Trudy. So I shall see you all hopefully next Thursday, should nothing crop up. Thank you, Catherine. You're very welcome. So love to all. Love to you too, Belinda. Bye, everybody. Bye.